What is up, everyone? Scott Brandt, one half of two native sons. Actually, one fourth, one fourth of two native sons. One half of two native sons that does the Dreamer Cypher. Patrick Murakami will be on next week. He was talking that he should be good, caught up with everything to be back on next week. But we did a live earlier this week. Actually, we did it Saturday. So it's on the Facebook page. It's on the YouTube channel. What we did was we were able to go highlight a local business, Carefree Bar and Grill, and was allowed to have Cynthia and her husband. They came on and talked about their story, what was going on. And it was just a beautiful thing just to really be able to be invited into their restaurant to live stream with them, share what's going on, share their story, and really get their message out there. And so as we're going through tonight, there's the share button. So if you have the opportunity to hit the share button, start a watch party, get this out, let's grow, let's go. And so it's myself tonight. My guest that I was going to have come on had some things come up. So we go with the punches and perfect action. Here we go. Punch away. Let's go. And so during the live stream with Carefree Bar and Grill, we had Jasper that was there. And so give a shout out to Jasper Axelrad for coming out, joining us on the live stream. And it's just one of those things that seeing Jasper with her growth and what she's doing for Two Native Sons as a sponsor, I would put her up against any other sponsor, and what she's doing is huge. And so grateful that we crossed paths, grateful that she trusted us to come on and be the sponsor for Two Native Sons. And she has done a pivot. So I think we've shared that before, maybe not on the Dreamers Cypher, but with the pivots, they're shutting down for the winter. And so they are transitioning into Tupala Food for Thought. And so that's what I've got scrolling down on the bottom. But they will utilize their Facebook page to highlight small businesses. And so that's ultimately, as Two Native Sons, is going out there and giving the spotlight, putting the spotlight on somebody else and helping to showcase them so people know these individuals, get to know who they are, hear their story, and just get to the meat and potatoes of the individual behind the restaurant or behind the business that's running. Because tonight, since I had to go on the fly, going to go through The Buddha and the Badass, talking about things that really stuck out from that book. And that's one that I highly suggest if you haven't read it before, or you're like, what is that book? It's The Buddha and the Badass by Vishen Lakhiani. A lot of great information, things that really opened up and started that transitional period. And one of the things that I'll talk about is the three most important questions. And so in there, it's talking about experiences. When I went through my experiences, one thing that I wrote down was writer. And so with myself and Patrick, that was the starting point for Two Native Sons, was a book. But we are close to being done with the book. And so I would say timelines have really adjusted for us in regards to the book. We wanted to get it out, I think, late November, and things just happened. And then as we got closer, we were looking and we're like, okay, probably need to adjust maybe mid-December. Yep, timelines adjust. So it's one of those things that the beautiful thing that we don't have to worry about is having these hard deadlines. Because the book, it's our own doing, it's our own work. We're not working with anybody. So that's the beautiful thing about doing stuff on your own. And so with the Tupala Food for Thought, Jasper shot over some different things here for us to kind of chew on, think about. And if you know Jasper, she's been on here before, and I've had her live streamed on different platforms, different avenues. And if you truly know who Jasper is, she's got a huge heart. She's driven to really see people flourish. She's a huge connector. And so she's got some questions to be asked. And so it does go to this food for thought. And the first one that she had talked about or sent me was, if people could choose a currency, especially during the Christmas season, what would that be? would it be with the currency? Would that be relationships, monetary, time, barter and trade, or ornaments? So this is the question that she provided. And it's one of those things that really gets you to start thinking. So ask yourself when you think about this is if you could choose a currency, especially during the Christmas season, what would that be for you as an individual? What would your currency be that you would utilize to work and share what you're doing with others? And so it's a powerful question because currency, if you really think about it, currency can be anything that you can trade, give to somebody. But right now we have money, which is fiat money. We can talk about that fun stuff there. But money is just a vehicle of trade. Money is just a vehicle of exchange power and whatnot. And honestly, when I look at this list, for my piece, if it could be currency for me, it'd be the relationships. And so there's something that if you truly think about it, you do have a bank account when it comes to relationships. And are you depositing more into the lives of others? Are you going out there and giving value and creating value for other people? And are you taking the spotlight off of yourself and putting it on other people? And so I know Jasper's talked about the fact of when I bring that up, take the spotlight off of yourself and put it on somebody else. It gets her to get out of her own way. It does help her to calm down because she's looking at it in a different light. And so it's a powerful thing when you say something and somebody receives it and they start working with it and they're like, oh my goodness, that really worked. So for me, because one of my core foundational values is relationships, is connections. And so for me, currency for me would be the relationship piece because ultimately, when I look at it, and maybe this is the same way you look at it, it could be different, so I don't know. But when I look at the aspect of life, relationships really are your biggest driving factor to achieve success because relationships open up the door to get connected with other individuals. And so it's the power of that connection, it's the power of the relationship. And so when you think about it, this could go back in line of are you driven by the relationships that you're building? Are you driven by the value you can pour into somebody else and see that change for you? Or are you driven by other things? And so that's the thing. Everybody is driven by a different aspect. So we have to respect that because everybody is driven by different things. For me, when I look at it, ultimately for success in business, for success in life in general, it's the relationships. But like I said, that is my opinion. You can take it or leave it. And the other thing is, I don't want to push this on other people because if I push it on people and then they're like, oh, well, let me go build relationships, and that's not who they truly are, they're going to come back and be mad at me because they had taken my push and tried it and it didn't work out. And so it ultimately, the beautiful thing as humans, we all have our own opinions. I've talked about it before that you need to be very careful about putting these expectations on individuals because if you have these expectations, that's predetermined resentment. So think about this. Do you have a coworker or do you have a friend or I don't know, whatever it is, that you have them up on this pedestal and all of a sudden they fall off and they fell? And when you look at that, are you looking, you're like, oh my goodness, they failed. They weren't supposed to fail. What does that do to you as an individual? A lot of times that's going to crush your confidence because you had this expectation for somebody else. And that was a predetermined resentment because if they fell, you're going to have a resentment of that person. And it's not a good thing. And so we've really got to go and understand that there's nobody better than us. It's a level playing field. We all bring something different to the table. But ultimately, you got to look at yourself and say, what do I bring to the table? What's my value and worth that I bring? And so that's the other thing is know your worth. Don't let somebody else dictate what your worth is. Because if you do that, that's not going to be good for you. If you allow somebody else to dictate your worth, you're going to miss out huge because you're allowing other people to drive you and steer you around and push you whatever way because you're looking for the validation. You're driven by the opinions of others and what they're doing, and it's not a good thing. And then Jasper had a second one on here with the food for thought. What's most valuable to you, and how would you utilize that to impact society? And what's most valuable to me? It would go back to my foundational values, and it's that the connection piece. And so when I look at that, let me read the question here real quick again as my phone. There we go. How would you utilize that to impact society? The power of who you know, and if somebody's looking for a connection, somebody needs help, if you can get them connected with that individual or whoever it is, imagine the power of that connection. And so it's a beautiful thing. And so that's ultimately what I look at it. I forgot the question again. Good times. What's most valuable to me, and how would you utilize that to impact society? So most valuable to me is the relationships, is the connection piece. Because I truly believe that for your success, it's based on your relationships, it's based on the connections, and it's based on how you go about living life. And that's one of those things that when I look at it, where myself and Patrick we're driven on the idea of imperfect action. Because that's one of those things that it's a muscle that you've got to flex. It's a muscle you've got to work on, is that imperfect action. Too many people will look and be like, oh man, it needs to be perfect. I need the perfect day. I need the perfect weather. I need perfect whatever. And honestly, there will never be a perfect time. There will never be a perfect day. Things are going to come up. Life is going to punch you in the face. And so are you going to allow that to keep pushing you? Are you going to allow that to dictate who you are? Or are you going to stand up and say, I know my worth, and here we go? And so you're going to either respect it or you're not part of my life. And it's a different way to look at things. But it also comes down to the fact of that's how I view things. That's how I look at stuff. And last night we had the pleasure of a get together. Shout out to Threes Comedy Club, Eric that runs the Threes Comedy Club. Beautiful location here in Colorado Springs. But they opened up the doors and we were able to gather as a community. And I would say inside there was probably 30, maybe 40 different business owners, different individuals that are supporting the community. And it was just a beautiful thing to hear the stories, to really see how people have overcome obstacles. And what's going to ultimately help with what's going on with the different communities is having that united front. And so they do have t-shirts. We have them. And so it's something local to Colorado Springs, to the Colorado area. Let me get this in the picture here. Now I can't see. There we go. But it's hashtag shutdowns ruin towns. And so it was one of those things that it's a very easy thing to get behind. And it's a driving force that everybody is really at that point. It's like, okay, we've got to do something. And so with the shirts, and if you would like to purchase a shirt, you can reach out to myself, Patrick, Jasper, and we can let you know how to get a shirt. We can get it to you. But ultimately, it's a way for this to come together, the unification. And it's one of those things that when they did the initial round of people buying shirts, businesses buying shirts to utilize to give out. So one of our strategies is when we go highlight small businesses in the Colorado Springs area, we want to give a shirt to them as a thank you. And so that was one of those things that just with the shutdowns and what's taken place, just to see the hurt with Carefree Bar and Grill and with Cynthia and her family and what they're facing. And so with the t-shirts, the purchasing that you can do, it's really to help out small businesses and artists in the community. And what they were able to raise in about 20 minutes, I believe it was $16,000 in 20 minutes. And it's one of those things that to hear an individual, and I don't remember who it was, but we have gotten to the point where you have the COVID deaths that are taking place. But a big factor that's really playing into that they had brought up was the depression piece. People getting to a point where they don't know what to do. And a lot of times people turn to killing themselves, going through suicide because they think that's going to be the answer and that's going to help them get to a better place, whatever it is. I don't know. I'm not one that's got to that point, but Patrick, I don't know if we've talked about it, but he does have a backstory that it's powerful to hear what he went through and where he's at now to where he was a while ago is powerful to see. But it's one of those things that just what's taking place, it's hurting people, livelihoods, and the shutdowns with people not having their space to come and gather and have that community. One of the things that Joseph O'Keefe, which is the lawyer going through some different things out here, working with different businesses here in Colorado Springs, he had talked about, and when I thought about this, I was like, man, this is powerful. So with the military community, you have a lot of individuals that have PTSD. And so with the bars, that little gathering section, the bars, whatever it is, that's where those individuals gather to create the solidarity, to be around their brothers and sisters that are going through the same thing. Because the PTSD can be one of those things that individuals can be set off and they can experience PTSD in different routes. But the thing with the military community, the population, it's a small population. And so if you've never experienced it, it's hard to understand what's going on. And so that was one thing that Joseph O'Keefe had brought up was with the shutdowns, the bars getting shut down, it's hurting that community of veterans. And then last night we had Tony Exum Jr., who's a phenomenal saxophone player. He came up, did a presentation, and he had talked about the artists, musicians that are getting impacted because sites are being closed down. They don't have anywhere to perform. And like for him, he's like, I had gigs that were booked, but they were getting taken away. They were having to be rescheduled, canceled. And so a lot of individuals are making that pivot to going virtual and whatnot. And Tony actually brought up the fact that for them to be able to cover their livelihood, they have to have an audience. I was like, that is very true. And so musicians depend on the audience. They depend on us as individuals to go take in their art form if you enjoy that type of art form. And that's up to you. Like, everybody's different. Some people don't like music. But Tony had talked about, he's like, can you imagine the world without music? And everybody's like, no. Music is one of those powerful languages that speaks to everybody. And man, it's just to hear the stories, just to see what's going on, but to see the community come together, a beautiful thing. And so Yeah, like I said, the shirts, if you want information on it, reach out, send us a private message. We'll let you know and whatnot. But just a way to unify the community. And so it's a good thing. But like I said, with the pivot that I had to make, which is okay, such is life. And we don't get down, we don't get sad. We just pivot and do what we need to. So I was like, okay, let us go ahead and the book. This is a book that I highly talk about, the Buddha and the Badass by Vishen Lakhiani, and you can see it's got some battle wounds here, covers being torn, so just a lot of use and whatnot. But man, it's one of these books that honestly you've got to you've got to experience, and you've got to go through. There's exercises in here that Vasheen talks. He's like, you've got to do the exercises because the exercises are what gets that brain body connection. It gets you start thinking. It starts powering your mind. You start getting into that thought pattern. You start flowing into the thoughts and whatnot. And so, just a couple things in here that really stuck out. One was a quote by LP Jacks, and this is a powerful quote, and it's unique. The master in the art of living makes little distinction between his work and his play, his labor and his leisure, his mind and his body, his education and his recreation, his love and his religion. He hardly knows which is which. He simply pursues his vision of excellence at whatever he does, leaving others to decide whether he's working or playing. To him, it is always doing both. And so that's a unique thing. As a business owner, as an entrepreneur, as just an individual, being a human is your work and play. If you are passionate about something, that's part of that work and play that just bleeds together. And people can look and be like, what's going on here? Like, do you actually work, or like are you chasing passions, and like is money coming in, anything of this craziness? And man, it's one of those things that I look at, it's like everybody turns to this question of, are you making money, or how much money are you making? And it's like there's more to life than money. Money is a tool, money is a vehicle, money is energy that honestly, if you have a big vision and mission, if you have a mission and a vision, you need money because money is the only way to get it done. You can only go so far, but money is a driving force. Money does a lot of different things. Money gives you options, but it's so unique when people are like, well, how much money are you making? How are you making money? And people just don't understand that value that you provide in something. So actually, a lot of times we got to understand is your the money that you make, the money that comes in through your company is all determined upon the market seeing your value, seeing if it's what you have is very valuable. And so you can't force that. It's the markets, the customers that determine that. And so it's one of those things that I look at it. You can go and look at personal development with these conferences, Tony Robbins, Dean Graziosi. They've got masterminds that people are spending $250 to be part of, $250,000 to be part of a mastermind. And so when you think about that and you're looking and you're like, man, $250,000, when you're thinking about that, are you looking more at the expense, or are you looking at the investment into yourself as an individual? Because the one asset that you possess that nobody else can take away from you is your mind. That personal development, that spending of the money to work on yourself is your mind. So are you looking at the cost of what you're spending as an expense? Or are you looking at the bigger picture, the investment, and what this is going to do for you? I've also had an individual that I follow. He's a mentor of mine, is Ray Higdon. And so this was another thing. He had spoken. He went and met with Grant Cardone for 6 hours, I believe. He spent $100,000 for that 6-hour session. But what he was doing was going and refining the sales skill process, the sales process, refining that process. And so he was investing in himself. He was investing into his business. And so think about that. When you think about that situation and you're like, man, he spent $100,000, or man, he spent $100,000 as an investment on himself that is going to turn around and make a huge difference. And so it's a matter of your lens. It's a matter of how you see stuff. But if you don't look at the bigger picture and see if there's a potential for an investment in yourself, in your business, whatever it is, you're going to miss out. And so this is a change in mindset. This is a change in perception. This is a change in how you see things. But that's not easy because it's that belief system, it's that paradigm that's been stuffed in your head. And that goes into the part of you've got to question the beliefs. You got to question the paradigm. Because if not, and you don't question, and they are in there just automatically running, and you don't stop that cycle, are you going to be in the position that you want to be in? Or are you going to be in a position that somebody else is pushing you in because you took their beliefs, you took their stories, you took their words as gospel, and you didn't question? And so that's one of the things you see a lot of people as they grow up, they don't question. They don't ask the questions. And so this is the thing for you, that if you want to figure out what to do, you got to ask questions, but you got to be mindful about the wording of your questions. And so if you get shown an opportunity to invest in a project, a business, start a business, a relationship, and you ask yourself, is this going to work? Or what can go wrong? You are going to shoot yourself in the foot, and it's not going to be fun. It's going to be painful. And so you've got, instead of asking yourself what could go wrong, is ask yourself what can go right, and start that process of looking at things differently, stacking thoughts differently. And your thoughts, your mind are very powerful. And it's one of those things that you've got to work on. This is the starting point here. Your mind, you've got to start with that. You've got to work on it. And yeah, so it's just one of those things. So when I look at this, and Vashin was talking that the myth of hard work, and there was a quote in here that really stuck out. Like, everything sticks out to me, so it's a good thing. The soul's experience on earth is not meant for hard work and toil. It's meant for freedom, ease, and expansion. So think about that. Are you one that has this belief? Somebody told you, oh, starting a business is going to be hard. Hard work is necessary to get success. Hard work is key. But look at that person that's saying hard work is key. What's their life look like? Where are they at in life? Are they constantly turning their wheels and just being stuck? But that's a thing that it comes into how you view hard work, how you view that idea. And so everybody, this is the thing, everybody's got their perceptions. Everybody has their lenses to how they look at life. And so we've got to understand that we're all looking at life differently. And so maybe with the hard work aspect, that's the type of family you grew up in, and that's all you knew. And so that's what drives you. Okay. And then you may have somebody that grew up and hard work wasn't really present, very smooth potentially and whatnot. So it ultimately depends. Let me see here. I'm just there was one thing in here. Oh, one of this is becoming magnetic. Go inward to attract outward. I've brought this up. I've talked about it. I don't know how in depth we've gotten on it with the Dreamer Cypher, but everything that's going on, you are the integral part of what takes place. And so if you are in a job and it's not working out. So let's say you start a job and it's working out well, and then all of a sudden, a couple months into it, like you're like, this sucks, and you want to go punch people in the face, and people are pissing you off, and all that craziness. And then you change jobs. It goes well again. People are different, and then all of a sudden, it's the same thing over and over again. So the integral part is you. You are 100% the integral part in everything because you're in every situation 100% of the time. And so you've got to look at it. And this is coming into the part of you've got to work on your inside. You've got to work on your mindset. You've got to work on your thoughts. You've got to work on how you speak to yourself. You got to work on the stories that you're telling yourself, because that internal world is going to impact your external world. But people believe that things that you can't control, so the external world, is impacting your internal world. So my question is, why are you allowing things outside of you to control your emotions? Why are you allowing things outside of you to control your happiness? It's a question that's very pertinent. That's all an inside job. That's on you. Nobody else. That's on you. And so you've got to do that work. Then the thing that we have to be mindful about when we're looking at this is discovering your soul print. And your soul print is you're looking at what are you meant to do, what really drives you, how are you going to leave an impact, how are you going to leave a legacy. And part of that soul print is that story that you have. And so this is where I tell people, I'm like, you have a message that somebody else needs to hear. And so if you don't show up and you're not consistent and you're scared and you're letting, let's say you're watching this, or you've watched the other things, you watch people on YouTube, you listen to the podcast, you're like, man, I think I could do that. But, and so you think you can do it, but that but's going to distract all that, wipe that all out. That but I don't want to do it because what are people going to think? So, interesting story here. With the first podcast that I started with my co-host, Marion Wilson, the Journey Beyond Divorce podcast, a week before we had launched that, I was talking to my mom and we were just having a discussion. And I was like, Mom, what if nobody listens to this? What if nobody resonates with the message that I have? What if everybody's like, this is stupid, this is crazy? What happens? So I got in my own head, and then I had to do some work, did a couple exercises and whatnot. And I asked myself, I was like, is this fact or opinion? And it came down, it was my opinion. And so now I look at it, it's a slow growth process, but we're at 650 listens of the podcast. So there's been listens to the podcast, so people are listening. So this crazy thoughts that I was having wasn't necessary. And so with a business, with starting whatever it is, in most cases, anyone can imitate your business. So that's the thing. The businesses that we have, it can be imitated by anybody. So if you're like, this is the greatest idea, okay, that's cool. That's the greatest idea, but somebody's going to come behind and imitate it potentially. But nobody can imitate your business if it's built based on your story. Your story is going to be that separator. So nobody can take that away. Nobody can imitate your story because your story is unique to you and only you. When your values infuse your business, you've given a special life to your creation. And so what Machine's starting to get in here is talking about your foundational values. Foundational values are really what's going to drive you, is really those values. Gotta love it. So, but it's interesting because these foundational values should be what drives you, because you'll have values that people have tried to force into you that are like, these are the values that you need to carry. These are your values. But are you truly happy? Is it something that's really driving you? Is it something that's really pushing you? So if it's not, those aren't true values. Those are not values that are yours. Those are somebody else's values that you falsely believe that were yours. And so with the exercise, and so it's very in depth, and that's why I highly suggest getting the book. The aspect is going back in your past, looking at those situations that caused you pain, and then finding out within that situation the feelings that you had, and then drilling it down to what do you really not want to see somebody else experience, and then you got to find that one word that's the value piece of that experience. And so those are what's going to drive you. That's what you have to be true to. And you can do it even with your wins too. So any of your wins, it's great, but more of the pain is more of how can I help somebody else not experience this. And so for myself, mine is love, growth, connection, and relationships. And so those are the four foundational values that I have that really drive me. And I had just come to the aspect of being grateful for finding this book, coming across the book, and really getting into it. And so as you're going through, like I said, there's going to be different exercises. I'm trying to find the next one. Sparking the deep connections. That is not it. Oh, okay. So this is a unique thing that he was talking in regards to work is today's tribe. And so think about that. With work, if you're at a normal job, the 9 to 5, if you don't have a big business, maybe you're a solo entrepreneur and so you're by yourself, but that work is your tribe because that's where you're at most of the time is work. Think about it. If you're working 9 to 5, working 40 hours a week, that's a lot of time that you're at work and whatnot. But Vasheen was talking that with true happiness, social connections are the driving force to happiness. And so as humans, we're not meant to be by ourselves. We are social creatures, so we're meant to be around people, those social connections. And then what happens is with those social connections, that can help with being a complement to your happiness. You make your own happiness, and then that can be a complement to enhance your happiness. And then what happens is through those connections, with the increasing of the happiness, that impacts the performance, your work performance, life performance, whatever it is. And so social connections are huge. And it goes back to the fact of, for me, the connection piece, the relationship piece as currency, because that is the complementary piece to the happiness, is the people that you hang around, your friends, the circle. You gotta be careful about your friends, because if your friends aren't lifting you up and dragging you down, that's not somebody you want in your life. And it's I understand that, yeah, you grew up with them and whatnot, but nope, if they're not serving you and they're draining energy out of you, because you're like a battery. If you're getting drained and you're hanging around these people, it's not serving you any positive way. Like, you're hurting yourself and you're not being of service to society. And then the last one that really, so actually here he was talking about mean goals versus end goals. And so this is one thing that really stuck out. People often invest years, even a lifetime of toil and money into a goal that they think as the end goal, but which is really just a means to an end. This is a major mistake. End goals speak to yourself. End goals speak to your soul. And so the way I look at it is mean goals is average, is every goal that a lot of people have and whatnot. But what's the end goal for you? What speaks to your soul? What drives you? And so this goes back to you doing the work, finding those foundational values that drive you, find those foundationals that you build upon. And then the last thing that really sticks out here, there's so much more in here and whatnot, but it's the aspect of the 3 most important questions. Woo! Almost drug the camera off or the phone. That would have been good. Awesome. Good times. But the 3 most important questions are, let me see here. We're here to experience all the world has to offer. So, what experiences do you want to have in life? The next one is growth. Growth deepens our wisdom and awareness. So, how do you want to grow? And the last one is contribution. It is what we give back from the wealth of our experiences and growth. Contribution's huge. What type of contributions do you want to provide your city? What type of contributions do you want to provide to your family? What type of contributions do you want to provide to your country? What type of contributions do you want to provide to the world? And so this is your work. This is work that you have to do. Nobody else can come up with this for you. Nobody can create the answers for you. You got to understand that for you, you are the expert in your own life. Myself, when you look at mentors, you look at people that you're following, they're just guideposts for you. But ultimately, you are responsible for the outcome of your life. You have your hero's journey. So you are your own hero that has to go through this. And so if you're looking at somebody else to come in and do the work for you and help you out, it's not going to work. This is your life. You have to go through it. You are the expert of your own life. You know what's best. And so it's interesting talking about coaching because that's one of the multifaceted pieces of myself. And that falls under the umbrella of Two Native Sons, coaching with different aspects of coaching, business coaching, life coaching. For me, my biggest focus is relationship coaching. And so the most pertinent and important relationship is the relationship that you have with yourself. So if you don't have a good relationship with yourself, why do you expect somebody else to have a good relationship with you? If you're looking at somebody else to fill a hole in you, fill a hole in your heart, your spirit, whatever it is. So maybe you're searching and you're looking to somebody else to love you. But the question that starts here is, are you loving yourself? If you're not loving yourself and you're looking at somebody else to love you, that's not good, because a lot of times we're running into issues where you're not whole and you're dealing with other individuals that haven't done the work. They haven't worked on themselves. They have a lot of different things that they need to work on and heal themselves. But you're looking at somebody else to give you that thing that you're searching for. So if you don't love yourself, but you're looking at somebody else to give you love, but they aren't whole, and so maybe the issue that we run into is that person that you're looking at to give you love, maybe they're not willing to give themselves love, and they're looking at you to give them love. So how does that work? It does not work out very well. And so this is the crazy shit that we run into. And so that's why it's pertinent in regards to the relationship that you have with yourself, completing yourself. And so that's a big, big thing, is what type of relationship do you have with yourself? Are you at that point where you accept yourself for everything? Flaws, quirks, loves, passions? Do you look at yourself in the mirror and say, hey, I love you? And you're talking to yourself. Thank you for what you do. That's probably weird. You're like, oh my goodness, like, really? I'm going to look at myself and say, I love you? Yeah, because ultimately it's that relationship with yourself. Where are you at with your relationship with yourself? That's going to be a big driving force, because if you don't have a good relationship with yourself, all the other relationships are going to suck. Yeah, so it's one of those unique things and whatnot. And it's one of those aspects because we talk about leadership. We look at individuals. We have individuals that are like, I want to be a leader. But that is not an easy position. I am one that I'm like, nope, I'm just going to show up, I'm going to do what I'm doing, and just give people permission to be true to themselves, be their true self, not show up as their pseudo self. Too many people do that. But it was interesting because I had received this from my dad, and it states true leaders don't force people to follow, they invite them on a journey. And so think about that. The journey is a beautiful thing. Going from point A to point B is awesome. Getting to your end destination is awesome. But that journey is very important because as you're going to that end point, whatever it is, that journey is helping you grow. That journey is helping you progress. That journey is lifting you and elevating you and forcing you to become a different individual to get you ready for that next level, whatever it may be. And it's interesting because there was another mentor of mine. He was talking that when you think about it, every new level has a new devil. And so you're going to elevate, you're going to progress, you're going to grow and get to this level. But guess what? When you're starting to go to that next level, you've got to work on yourself, you've got to progress. And so it's continual work. Think about this way with this is individuals that go to the gym and are working on having that perfect body, they get the 6-pack abs. Once they have the 6-pack abs, do they stop working? Or do they continue to work on themselves, continue to refine and maintain and progress with what they have? So once they get it, they're going to keep working on it. They're going to keep pushing. They're going to keep refining and progressing. So it's the same thing as you're elevating, as you're going from one level to the next. Once you go from level A to level B, you've done all that work, but you get to level B, you've got to continue to work. So going from level B to level C, you've got to continue to work. And a good friend of ours, Q, he was on here a couple weeks ago. He's real big into games. And so he actually gave the correlation. He's like, man, I look at life and personal development and what I'm doing as a video game, because as you're going through a video game, you're getting new skills, you're upgrading, you're doing different things to progress. And so it's the same thing with real life. You've got to constantly grow. The sad thing is that a lot of people will get to a point and they will stop learning, they will stop growing, and then they end up just not progressing, not fulfilling their purpose and whatnot. And I've heard it that a person dies twice. Once at the age of 25, because a lot of times that's when people get out of college if they go that route. And then the second time is when they actually leave Earth. And it's a sad thing when people stop progressing, when people stop growing. It's just not a good thing. Like, life is about experiences. Part of that is continue to learning, continue to shaping, continue to up level, continue to progress and grow. But that's an individual thing. You have to make the decision on if that's what you want or what. But that's ultimately an individual thing. Nobody else is responsible for that. You're responsible for yourself to continue to grow, to continue to do what you need to. Nobody else can do that for you. But that concludes here the pivot of tonight. And as we always do, let me go ahead and we'll run through pod decks here and just kind of see what we have question wise. Let me see here with the pod decks what deck we would like to go through. And guess what? I'm here, so it's gonna be my choice. So it's just slowly thinking here. But yeah, ultimately, with the videos, if you guys are watching this, you find value in it, share it. Facebook, it's got the little share button that you can hit, send it out to people. Don't be a jerk, share the information, help somebody else that if they can find a piece of one nugget that they can walk away with and progress, great. And then I know YouTube, this is live stream on YouTube, so you can go to our YouTube channel, grab the link, share with people. If you haven't, we would truly appreciate you going to the YouTube channel, subscribing, liking, and showing the support that way. So I will actually, nope, I was going to think of something else, but all right. So let's see here. Let us see. Actually, the future freaks me out. Thanks, Travis, for the decks here, Travis Brown. And also, if you're an individual that's a content creator, you live stream, you do podcasts, you're you're on Twitch, you have that engagement, you can go get the pod decks. It's a great tool to have. I do have a discount code. It's let's go 26. I'll give you 10% off your first purchase. Capital LETSGO 26. And yeah, just utilize that. I highly suggest getting this as another tool in your toolbox to increase engagement, to have some different conversations started. Let me see. Will we know who will win the battle between Siri and Alexa for most helpful assistant 20 years from now? I, with the way things are going, technology, and with just how the algorithms work and whatnot, and everybody trying to one up each other, I don't know, honestly, the battle between Siri and Alexa for most helpful assistant. And that's the other thing that we run into too is you're dealing with or you're dealing with Apple, and so you're gonna have diehard fans of Apple that will say Siri is the best thing. Alexa's Amazon, so you have diehard Amazon fans and whatnot. But honestly, like this is like you get to choose. But will we know who will win the battle? I don't know. I honestly, I don't think you'll know who will win this just because of technology always improving, always updating, different things and whatnot. So I think to each their own. You choose. If you want Siri to win, then I guess you go and let people know, hey, Siri's the best thing. You need to get Siri. Alexa, same thing. You need to go get Alexa. We need to win this battle. I don't know if there's truly a battle here. I'm just reading off the card and whatnot. But honestly, I don't know. It's just to each their own. You pick and choose what it is. What will be the most Google phrase 20 years from now? Oh my. 20 years from now. If I had it my way, it would be let's go or imperfect action. That would be the most Google phrase 20 years from now, just because of the impact that having the idea of taking imperfect action can have on an individual. Because ultimately, that is a muscle that you've got to flex. That's a muscle that you got to work on. Because if you're one of those individuals, which hey, to each their own, but if you're a perfectionist and you're like, it's got to be 95% right before I can go do it, you're losing out on a lot of opportunities. You're losing out on a lot of time. You're getting passed up. You'll have people that will go take the imperfect action and are putting out 6, 7 different ideas before you put out one. And so that's the muscle you got to work on is that imperfect action muscle. It doesn't feel comfortable a lot of times because you're like, oh, what if it doesn't work? What if somebody laughs at me? What if I become sad? Well, that's cool. Learn from it, grow from it, progress, pivot when you need to pivot. But yeah, imperfect action. What will be obsolete that people are addicted to currently 20 years from now? Maybe Facebook. Facebook will be no longer existent, so we'll have something else. But what will be obsolete that people are addicted to currently 20 years from now? Facebook, Netflix. I don't know because you have all the VR, virtual reality stuff. So it's one of those things. It's interesting when you start thinking about it. Let's see the hustle. Let's see what we got coming up here. How do you capture and keep track of ideas? Do you keep a notebook, voice memos? And so this is one of those things that this is actually a great question because within the Dreamer Cypher, if you have these dreams, you have these ideas, you have these visions, write them down or voice memo them. Find something to keep track of your ideas because maybe at that point when that idea came up, maybe it wasn't ready for it to come to full fruition. Maybe the world wasn't ready for it. Maybe society wasn't ready for it. And so hold on to those ideas because you never know. Guess what? You could have this idea and then you cross paths with somebody and you got out of your own way and talked to them, figured out who they are, heard their message, or know who they are. You could have that potential great partnership for a business that this idea that you had before, maybe it wasn't good at that time, but now you got a partner that you can work with and bring this idea to life. And so you've got to figure out how to capture it. I know for me, a lot of times it's writing down or through different group chats on Facebook, putting that in there. It's another great avenue. Unless the internet and Facebook die off, then there goes all your ideas. So maybe writing. Phones got great apps. You have a note app that you can type in your idea, or you can speak it to your phone and track it. Hopefully your phone doesn't have to be factory resetted though. Hopefully it's up in the cloud, or you got it on some other storage place and whatnot. So, but yeah, capture your ideas. Even though if they sound crazy and off the wall, so be it. Run with it, capture it. You just never know. But for me, it's a multitude of things. Notebooks, writing it down, group chats. It just depends. It ultimately depends and whatnot. You just got to figure out what's best for you. Let's see. Is there anything holding you back, preventing you from moving closer to your future dreams? Honestly, right now, when I look at what's going on, there's nothing really holding me back because I've done enough of the mindset piece. I've done enough of the work. It's a continual process, so it's still being refined. But ultimately, because with Jasper calls me the yes man in our group chat because every time something comes up, it's like, all right, let's go. We'll figure this out as we go. And so it's the people that I've surrounded myself with ultimately has helped out with that. But a lot of times, I know biggest thing for me was the story I was telling myself. I used to tell myself that I wasn't worthy, and that would hold me back because I was like, shit, I would really love to do this, but it's not going to work. I'm not worthy of it. And so I had to do the work. And it goes back to that internal work that you need to do. You've got to work on your mindset. Let's see. What is one subscription you don't want to live without? One subscription. What do I have? Ultimately, I think the subscription that I don't want to live without it would be Spotify. Because music, podcast, I know Patrick talked about he had listened to an audible book of Think and Grow Rich on Spotify, I think he said. So you do have those opportunities where books could be present and somebody's reading it to you. But for me, it would be Spotify because it's such a robust and everything is condensed and everything is there for you and whatnot. So that would be the one subscription I would not want to live without. And so that ends that. Just some crazy ideas, crazy cards. Thanks, Travis Brown, for pod decks. But hopefully, if you found value in this, and I don't know, that's up to you. That is your decision. That is up to your mindset and how you're seeing things and how you're viewing things. But if you found value in this, like I asked earlier, is share this with somebody else. Even if you don't know if it could benefit that individual, share it anyways. Let's go. Because I know, honestly, what we talk about, myself, Patrick, with individuals that come on to the Dreamer Cypher, it's value. It's fire packed. There's a lot of information in here that somebody could benefit from. Ultimately, somebody could see it and be like, man, I haven't thought about it that way. I'm looking at it and seeing it from a different perspective. You just never know. But ultimately, share this. Share it away. If you're on YouTube, copy the link, send it out and whatnot. Go like, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Facebook, we have the Facebook page, Two Native Sons. Go check it out, like it, follow it, everything there. So invite your friends, invite your family. Let's go. Big things are going to take place. Big things are happening and whatnot. But want to thank everybody for your time. Thank you for your support. We will be back next Wednesday. And like I said, next Wednesday, Patrick should be back. So we got Patrick back in the mix. It's a good time. And we'll see who we have come on as a guest with us. We don't know. Maybe it's just myself and Patrick. So you'll have to wait to see next Wednesday. Other than that, you guys have a safe and great Christmas. We got that coming up on Friday. But yeah, enjoy the holidays. Go create memories with your families, and just go live life and follow and chase your dreams, your passions. If you have anything, if you have something on your heart, you don't feel like anybody's there for you, you don't feel like you have the support, reach out to us. Send us a message. Do what you need to, or find somebody that can help you out, push you and whatnot. So other than that, I'll catch you guys later. Love you guys. Peace. Have a good night.